Oh, okay.
audio.
Go ahead and get started.
Sure, no problem.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. I hope you can hear me okay. My name is Lori Schultz. I'm from the University of Arizona, Sponsored Project Services. I'm the Assistant Director for Sponsored Project Services at the U of A, and in the context of Kuali Coeus, I'm the Functional Council Chair of KC. What you should be seeing right now is my screen, the screen from my computer that has the main menu for Kuali Coeus. I'll step back a moment and give a couple of disclaimers and caveats about today's demo and explain a little bit about what KC is. KC is basically the next generation of Coeus. Our charge is to replicate the functional equivalence of Coeus and then deliver it as a Kuali product. That part of what you're seeing right now on the screen. A couple of the disclaimers I'd like to give about today's demo is that I am working in a current development environment, so anything can happen. We had a bit of a panic this morning with one of our development servers, so things can and do happen on a day-to-day basis. The other thing is that this week is a pretty significant test week for our upcoming release. So there are a lot of people working in KC right now. What that will mean to you during the demo is that you might see a lot of things that look a little unusual. I'll try to point them out as we go along, but they are basically a result of a bunch of people hitting the system and testing every bit of it so that we can get through our QA period. With that said, I will go ahead and get started. What you're seeing right now is the KC main menu, or we like to call it a portal, although it doesn't really have the same kind of functionality as a traditional portal. But you're looking at the main menu, and I'll give a brief description of what some of these features are, and then we'll go into the demo itself. Across the top, you see a bunch of different tabs based on typical user roles for the research administration enterprise at pretty much any institution. All these really serve to do is kind of subdivide some of the functions to what people in those roles might be doing on a day-to-day basis. So a researcher is going to be creating proposals, looking at his or her proposals. A unit or department person will be doing a lot the same thing, but they might have a little more responsibility for creating awards and approving documentation. And the same thing with a central admin user like someone in the Office of Sponsored Projects. But where I'll go ahead back and start is on the Researcher tab. Each of the areas, the main subject areas, is divided into a menu box, so it's a little easier to see what's going on and what's available to use. Any of the things you see right here, if they are underlined and have a link, that means we can take a look at them. If they're not, that means they're not available yet. Our proposal release came out in July of 2008. We released some additional budget functionality in November of that year, and our upcoming release, which is scheduled for April, will include additional proposal functionality as well as the award module. The IRB module we expect to have released as early as this summer, although a fixed release date has not yet been set. So you'll see some of the areas where ongoing development for IRB is happening, and we can take a look at that at the end of the demo if there's time. The only caveat there is that it is the area that's the most under construction right now of any of the modules. So what I'd like to do is start with the action list. This is basically an inbox of the documents that a person might be working on or have in their queue for approval. We'll start with some documents that I already started so that you wouldn't have to watch me type the whole time, because that's not very exciting. We'll start with a proposal. I generated a proposal last night, and we'll get started there, and we'll talk through the proposal and budget and also the award. And as there's time, we'll take questions, I believe, near the end. Okay. So this is a proposal development document. It consists of a bunch of tabs for routing, creating a proposal and budget, in addition to workflow for getting the institutional approvals on your campus electronically via paper, instead of paper, excuse me. And anyone, a researcher, a unit person, can start a proposal and get it moving along. There are a few things to note about this first page. All of the Kuali pages have these panels that you can open and close to save some screen real estate. I just collapsed all of them so that you can see what I mean. You can basically open these and close them so that you can work on pieces at a time and save as you go along, and save some scrolling, and that's really what these are for, is to group specific items together and save them as you go along. The first couple of items I'd like to talk about are the first panels. Document Overview, which is a Kuali standard across all eDocs in Kuali Coeus and Kuali Financials, for instance. and the second one called required fields for saving a document. You might notice that there are asterisks in some of these fields. All of these are required fields in order to save the document and get it started. What that means is that you need to fill in all of these items, you can save it, and from that point you can work on the proposal in any order. You can work on in any tab in any order once these initial fields are completed and the document is saved for the first time. More than one person at a time can work on it. You can come back and work later, and that's really what the purpose of this is for, is to get started quickly so that you can work on the different pieces of the proposal. As you can see, there are a few areas that are required, like the proposal type, the activity type, the sponsor, which is performed against a lookup, and I'll do that really quickly so you can see what I mean. Anywhere you see a drop-down menu in Kuali, you can assume that that list is configurable with a maintenance doc. What that means to you is that when you're administering and maintaining KC at your school, you can very quickly and easily change the items in that list, add new ones, delete ones that are no longer active, or make them inactive so that they don't appear in the list anymore, and even move around the order. Any one of the lookups, I'll go back really quickly, any one of the lookups here where you see a magnifying glass, you're basically looking up against a database table to return a value. In this case, it's the sponsor. It doesn't want to let me do that right now. Basically what it is allows you, if you don't know the code for NSF, for instance, I can enter the code directly, or I can perform a lookup to basically return the code I'm looking for, and I can use the search criteria that are shown in that lookup. When we get back to another lookup, I'll open that and we'll show you that later. Also on the Proposal tab, it has information on the sponsor and program information. And a lot of this information is optional, but is pre-filled from other areas, particularly in the case of a grants.gov proposal. So in this case, I put in a deadline date and a deadline time. It pre-fills the sponsor for me once I select it. I pick the NSF science code, which again is a drop-down list that can be configurable at your school. And because I've set this up as a grants.gov proposal and I've added an opportunity for grants.gov, it has filled in this other information on the opportunity title and the opportunity name and ID. We'll show you grants.gov in a minute so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. But I can either enter this information directly and type it in, or if I add a grants.gov opportunity for a grants.gov system-to-system submission, it'll populate this information backwards for me and overwrite anything I may have put in already. Has a tab for the applicant organization and performing organization and sites. This information, especially for the lead institution who's preparing the proposal, pre-fills. It's something that you set up when you implement KC. So it has the institutional information in there, and you can see from this direct inquiry item that you can open up a box and see exactly what exists for that record. And all of these are stored in the system so they don't have to be entered over and over again. The last two tabs, delivery info and keywords, are just a way of keeping some additional information about the proposal, like how is the proposal going to be sent, who's going to send it, what kind of proposal is it, whether it's hard copy or being sent electronically or by a delivery service. It allows, if you want to put an address in here just to store with the record where you sent the proposal if it's hard copy, it allows you to perform a lookup. And it still doesn't want me to do that. I apologize. Keywords allows you to perform a lookup against another table to add keywords to the document for later searching and reporting. What we've started off with KC is the Community of Science word list, so that everybody's getting the same keyword list, but that of course can be added and updated by your school. I think I'm going to close this and try to get back into it since it doesn't seem to want to let me advance. Give me a moment. Okay, we'll move on to the grants.gov page. In this example, I assumed a grants.gov submission so I could show you some of the ways that KC uses grants.gov web services to both find opportunities to add to the proposal and generate the XML requirements